Welcome to the video on infinite solutions to a system of linear equations, and we're going to try an actual SAT problem from the official practice test 2. And I encourage you to, as always, pause the video, do it on your own. That's the best way to learn something, and watching lectures is not to just sit passively, but to actually try doing them on your own. So in the system of equations above, a and b are constants. If the system has infinitely many solutions, what is the value of a over b? This is actually a hard problem, where you have two constants and you have to, in the end, you have to find a over b. So let's just remind ourselves in which case do we have an infinite number of solutions to a system of linear equations. And that's when you have, for instance, I'm going to give you an example. You have x plus y equals to 2 as the first equation, and then let me just multiply a 2 to both sides of this equation to get another equation, that is 2x plus 2y equals to 4. And if you try to solve this system of equations, you would have an infinite number of solutions, because essentially both of these lines are the same. When you look at them graphically, they both are the same line. And to solve this question, you have to just find out what the multiple is that you're multiplying, what the number is that you're multiplying on both sides of one equation to get to the other. So if I take a look here, so both of these are unknowns. So a and b are both unknowns, but we know what the number on the right hand side, we have both of them, right? So we can tell just by looking at them that we're multiplying a 5 to both sides of the first equation to get to the second, given that it has infinitely many solutions. Okay, so when I multiply a 12 by 5, I get a 60. You could also look at it in another way, that you can multiply the second equation by a 1 over 5 to get to the first equation. So whichever way you prefer, you can now figure out both of these constants, because we know that a 5a would be equal to this 2, right? Because whatever you multiply on the right hand side, you would multiply it on the left hand side too. So I'm using this first way of looking at it, that I multiplied the first equation by a 5 to get to the second. How do I know this? Because there is a 12 here and a 60 here. So the first step would, when you have a question like this, is you would figure out what did you multiply to one equation to get to the next. And now you just have to compare the coefficients. So this is the x term here and the x term here. When you multiply a 5 to this one, this term, it would become equal to this term. So a 5a would be equal to a 2. So our a here would be a 2 over 5. Similarly, for b, when I multiply a 5 times a b, that would be equal to 8. And so b would be 8 over 5. And now if I need to calculate a over b, or a divided by b, I can easily do that, because I know what is a and what is b. So a over b would be equal to a 2 over 5 divided by an 8 over 5. Actually, let me write that below here. So a 2 over 5 divided by an 8 over 5. I can also write this as a 2 over 5 multiplied by a 5 over an 8. I just reciprocated this term, and so now these 5's will just cancel out from each other, and I am going to be left with 2 over an 8, and I can simplify this further as a 1 over 4, and that's my answer. And this was actually a very hard, you can say, the hardest it can get in this type of a question, where you had two constants and you had to figure out the what do you call it, the quotient one divided by another. And in normal cases, you would just have to find one constant, and that's it, and you can easily do that in your head.